We are now going to be learning about accidentals in music. Accidentals are the sharps, the flats, and the naturals that you'll see in hymns and other songs. The reason why we have sharps is whenever they want you to raise the note that is typically found on this white key to the very next note, which is also referred to as a half step higher. So here they indicate this F sharp will be played here on this black note, because here is where the regular F is found on the piano, and then you would go up to the very next note or a half step higher to play this black key as an F sharp. Our flats lower the note to the next note lower on the piano, or a half step lower. And so here in the bass clef they have a B flat written. Here's where we would find B on the piano, and they want us to play the very next note lower or a half step lower on this black key to play that B flat. There will also be times where a note may have previously been sharp, or in this case flat, and they want to make it natural again, where you play it on this white key as opposed to the B flat. And so here this B natural will be played just as you normally would play a B on the piano. I'm going to be going over a few rules that you need to know in order to successfully play accidentals. It will also give us some more practice on note identification and finding the placement on the keyboard. So here I have a flashcard in the treble clef, and it's the first space note. And so that means that this first note here in the space is an F. That F is here on the piano, because here's middle C, D, E, F. Now if I were to place a sharp in front of this note, then that would change this F from here to an F sharp, which would be played up here. So as you can see, sometimes your hand is going to have to shift up depending on what finger needs to be playing that note in order to comfortably reach your black note that you're going to be playing. Our next one is a line note in the treble clef, and it is every good boy deserves fudge. So this is a D, but it is not the first D above middle C. It's going to be this D here on the piano. And if I were to make this note now a D flat, instead of playing this note, we would be playing the note directly below it here. Now if I were playing notes and my second finger was on this white key, my second finger is a little bit easier to shift over to a black note without moving my whole hand. And so you'll just have to decide what's going to be the best approach when you're playing sharps and flats on how you need to position your hand. If we move over into the bass clef, we have this note here, which is found in the top space note. The names of the spaces in the bass clef are all cows eat grass. And so we have this G. It's going to be the first G below middle C. Here's middle C, G, middle C, B, A, G. So here's our G. Now if I were to sharp this G, then instead of playing it here, we would then play the next note higher, which would be this black key. And so again, you'll have to decide which finger is going to work best when you're playing sharps and flats. But generally, at this point in your piano course, a finger number will be given for you to use. And then finally in the bass clef, we have this note on the second line, and it's grandpa's belt doesn't fit anymore. So this is a B, but it is not the first B below middle C. It is the second B. And so you find middle C, here's B, but you need to go down an octave, and here is where this B is on the piano. But if this were to be made flat, then instead of playing this note here on the piano, we would be going down one more, down a half step to play the B flat. When it comes to naturals, the only time that you'll see the natural accidental is if this note had previously been made flat or sharp. So here in the treble clef, we have the third space note, which is F, A, C, E. They're asking us to play a C natural. And so you're going to just simply play that first C above middle C in its natural state. There are a few other rules that I want to make sure you understand when it comes to playing accidentals. Right now, we are only playing one note at a time, but that will change soon, and I want you to feel comfortable with how accidentals are indicated when there's more than one note that's going to be played at the same time. You can see these two notes share the same stem, which tell us we're going to be playing them at the same exact time. We have every good boy deserves fudge, so you have the G and the B flat that need to be played. So here, the reason why I know that the B is going to be flat is because the center part of the flat symbol is on the line that indicates that it's a B. And so we're going to be playing G and B flat, which would look like this. Moving down to the bass clef, things can get a little tricky when our notes are very close together. Right here, we have in the bass clef an F sharp and a G that they would like to be played together. The reason I know that it is the F that needs to be sharp is because in the center of the sharp symbol, it is on the line for the F. It's not in the space for the G, it's on the line for the F. So if I were to play these two notes together, it would look like this. You'd have your G and your F sharp played together. There will also be times when you may see accidentals, two accidentals on one chord where the two notes are put on the same stem to be played at the same time. Here we have a natural sign for the note C, which means that the C was either made sharp or flat earlier in the piece, and now they want it to be played in its natural state. And then we have in this space the E, which they want to be flat. And so because the flat is in the same space as the E and the natural is in the same space as the C, I know what they're asking me to do. And so this would be played C natural and E flat like this. Another rule you need to know when it comes to playing accidentals is once a note has been made sharp or flat in a measure, it remains in that state for the entire measure. So here we have the note D and then F sharp, A, and then they want us to play another F in this measure. But because the F has already been sharped in this measure, you will be playing this as an F sharp. When the measure is over and there's a bar line, now that sharp is no longer applied to anything in the next measure. So you'll be playing an A, another F, but it will be F natural, not F sharp, and then the D, D. So these two measures will look like this. D, F sharp, A, F sharp, A, F natural, D, D. As you can see here, I've used both naturals and sharps because if they want you to play, for example, this F sharp in this measure, but then they want another F natural to be played, then they'll be canceling the sharp by putting this F natural. So we'd be playing G, F sharp, G, F natural, F, and then they want another F sharp here. So this would look and sound like this. G, F sharp, G, F natural, F, F sharp. In music, we also use what we call key signatures, where at the beginning of a song, they will have sharps or flats written before the time signature to let you know that in this key signature, every B will be flat in the piece unless otherwise indicated. This way, our page wouldn't be cluttered with a lot of accidentals. So we would just know that every single time we came to a B in this piece, we would have to play it flat. So here you see that we have a G and then a B, which would be played B flat, D, D, B, so this would be B flat, G, G, but here they don't want a B flat. They want us to play B natural, and so that's why they put the symbol there. So this line would look and sound like this. G, B flat, D, D, B flat, G, G, B natural. Here we have a key signature where there are two sharps that they would like us to play throughout the piece. And because I'm looking at the center of the sharps where it is, and I'm reading bass clef notes, I know that this first sharp is an F sharp, and the second sharp is a C sharp, which means that all Fs and Cs throughout this piece are wanted to be played sharp unless given a natural sign. So looking at the notes that I'll be playing here, I'll start with a G, go down to an F sharp because of the key signature, E, C sharp, D, C sharp, F sharp. So that would look and sound like this. G, F sharp, E, C sharp, D, C sharp, F sharp. And when it comes to key signatures, it will always be sharps or always be flats. You will not ever have a key signature where there are some sharps and some flats. However, in the body of the piece, there will be instances where even though there are sharps in this key signature, they may have flats written on the notes. But your key signature will always be either sharps or flats. I'm now on page 65 of your manual, Daily Exercises with a Sharp. They ask that your right hand be placed with the first finger on D, and then they want our third finger to be on the F sharp. I'll play through the exercise on page 65 for the right hand. D, E, D, E, D, E, D, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, A, G, A, G, A, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, D, E, D, E, D, E, D, D, E, F sharp, G, A, G, F sharp, E, D. For the left-hand exercise on page 65, they want our fifth finger to be placed on the D below middle C and our third finger to be on the F sharp. I'll go ahead and play through that left-hand exercise on page 65. D, E, D, E, D, E, D, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, A, G, A, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, E, D, E, D, E, D, E, D, D, E, F sharp, G, A, G, F sharp, D, E, D. On page 66, the hymn Praise God from Whom All Blessings Flow, they are adding sharps in there for you to get some sharp practice. They will also have us change our hand position. So I'll demonstrate how this hymn will look and sound, starting with our second finger on the G in the bass clef. G, G, F sharp, E, D, G, A, B. I'll just go over the hand shifts a little bit more so you can be very comfortable with that. So we start on our G, F sharp, E, D. Now get your finger from the F sharp to this G, A, B. B, A, G. Now reach your first finger to the middle C, then B, A. Now just shift your whole hand down one note and then play the third finger on the G, A, B, A, G, E, F sharp, G. Now you reach your first finger up to the D, D, B, G, A, C, B, A, G. On page 66, the hymn that we just went over, there is a note that we have not specifically addressed, and it's down here on the last line. This note, as you heard me say as I was playing it, is a D, and I want to make sure you understand why I know that this is a D. We use ledger lines in music, which are these short little lines above the staff or below the staff. And when you see these, you just continue to use the same rules that you do in music. Knowing that this top line here in the staff of the bass clef is an A, we would know that this next space note would be a B. This line here would be the middle C. And so this makes this note just above this line a D. Here in the treble clef, if we were to play this note, we know that this very bottom line, the first line in the treble clef, is an E. So now we'll work our way backwards. If this is an E, then the note just below that is a D. This line is for middle C, and then just below middle C is a B. You could also just simply know that because this is a middle C line, that you would just go one note below if you don't want to start working at the staff line here and keep going down. Just a little bit more practice of this. We know that this line is a middle C, so we would go down to the space would be a B, then the next line below B would be an A. So this would be an A, the first A below middle C. And then in the bass clef, knowing that this line here is the line for middle C, if this is middle C, then this is a D, and then here is E. And just to clear everything, this E is indeed the same E that would be here in the treble clef on this line. But every once in a while you'll find that ledger lines are used so that the left hand can play this E, especially if the right hand is playing notes that are higher in the staff and not able to reach this E that could be indicated in the treble clef, but they would like the left hand to play it. On page 67, when the right hand is playing Praise God from whom all blessings flow, we're going to be doing something new with our fingers. On the very last line, whenever you're going to be playing an E, F sharp, and then a G, instead of having the third finger play the G, they want our first finger to cross under our second finger to get you ready for notes that will follow. And so that will be played like this. It'll be the E, F sharp, cross under to the G, so then your hand is in a higher position on the piano, ready to play the rest of the notes that are needed. So again, that's first finger, second finger, cross under the first finger to get yourself set up for the next spot. So here's the entire hymn on page 67. G, G, F sharp, E, D, G, A, B, 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 A, G, C, B, A, G, A, B, A, G, E, F sharp, G, D, B, G, A, C, B, A, G. I'll go over the fingering for this hymn one more time. So you'll start with your fourth finger on the G, 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 F sharp, E, D. Now reach up your second finger to the G, A, B, 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 A, G, C, B, A, G, A, B, A, G, E, F sharp. Now cross under to the G, D, B, G, A, C, B, A, G. On page 69, they have a daily exercise with a flat. I'll go ahead and play through the right hand portion of this exercise. They want your first finger on the F just above middle C, and they're going to want your fourth finger on B flat. F, G, F, G, F, G, F, G, A, G, A, G, A, G, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, B flat, C, B flat, C, B flat, C, B flat, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, G, A, G, A, G, A, G, F, G, F, G, F, G, F, F, G, A, B flat, C, B flat, A, G, F. The left hand on page 69 for the daily exercises with a flat, the fifth finger is going to be placed on the F below middle C, and the second finger is going to be placed on the B flat. Here's the left hand. F, G, F, G, F, G, F, G, A, G, A, G, A, G, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, B flat, C, B flat, C, B flat, C, B flat, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, B flat, A, G, A, G, A, G, A, G, F, G, F, G, F, G, F, F, G, A, B flat, C, B flat, A, G, F. We'll now be playing on page 70, How Gentle God's Commands in the left hand. Our hand will be shifting around, and we will also be playing flats in this song. So we'll be starting with our first finger on the A just below middle C, and it will start on beat 3. So it'll go 1, 2. I'll go through the fingering on this one again, and I'll also say the names of the notes. So you'll start on your A, F, A, G, E, G, F. Now take your second finger and go to that F, D, F, C, F, E. Now shift all the way up for your third finger to be on the G, G, E, G, F, A, middle C, C, and then bring your fifth finger up to the G, B flat, A, C, D, C, A, B flat, A, F. So you had to bring your fifth finger down to the F, G, F. On page 71, the right hand will be playing through How Gentle God's Commands. They want our fifth finger to be on the A above middle C, and it will sound like this. Shift down to the fourth finger on the F. Shift up to the second finger on the G. Then move your first finger and your second finger. Reach down. On page 73, you see some exercises that they want you to work on. These exercises will help you get familiar with the concept of arpeggios in music. Arpeggios is when you move in thirds, and so you're going to be playing the C, skipping over the second or the next note, and then playing the third note, which would be the E, and then E goes to not the F but the G, so then it skips over the second note and goes to the third. So you're going to be playing the first, third, and fifth note starting with your middle C. But you can also see that our fingers are now going to have to be spread out. So I'm going to play through these exercises so you can see what the fingering is going to look like as I play these. And even though they have it written in the grand staff, they do want you to practice just the right hand and left hand separately. Do not put them together at this point. On page 73, the top exercise, starting with the right hand, our first finger is going to be on middle C, but our second finger is going to be placed on E, and then our third finger on G. So you're going to be stretching your fingers out on these exercises. Starting on the top line, C, E, G, C, G, E, C, F, A, C, A, F, C, E, G, C, G, E, C, C. For the left hand, the fingering that they recommend is putting your fifth finger on the C, fourth finger on the E, second on the G, and then you'll reach your first finger up to middle C. It would look like this. For me, this fingering is just a little awkward, and so I prefer to do 5, 3, 2, 1. And so if that works better for you, please feel free to use that fingering. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play through all of the exercises so you can see how the sharps and flats will be incorporated, but I'll be playing the left and the right hands together, and so you can just watch and see what you need help with for each exercise. So I'll be moving down to the second line. There's one flat, and that flat is B throughout this exercise. The third exercise on page 73 has one sharp, and that sharp will be F sharp. And then on page 74, there will be two flats in the top exercise, B flat and E flat. The second exercise has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. And then finally, the last exercise has 3 flats. It'll be B flat, E flat, and also A flat. Learning about accidentals isn't that tricky of a concept. It's whenever we have our key signatures and then you're having to remember what notes are sharp and flat throughout a song that can get a little overwhelming. And so I want you to take your time on this lesson and make sure you do the written assignments that they have in your manual. They can be found on pages 64, 68, and 72. So go through those and make sure you understand where all the sharps and flats are and how to identify what is to be sharp or flat in a key signature. And you may be wondering, why do we have key signatures? Why don't we just play everything on the white keys? And a couple of reasons, especially in hymns, are for the vocal range. If we kept everything in the same key, there will be some songs that would be just too low for us to be able to sing. And there would be also the reverse, where there'd be some hymns that are just too high for our vocal ranges. But also there are some hymns that I personally feel are easier to play in a certain key than others. And so they do help with that also in making things a little easier to play. You may have noticed on page 73 when we were going through the daily exercises that the bottom exercise had 1 sharp in it, but none of the notes were played sharp. The key that, or excuse me, the note that should be sharp is F, but none of the notes in that line were an F. So you're probably wondering, well, why did they put an F sharp in the key signature to begin with? And a quick explanation for that is it is in the key of G. And whenever we play a G scale, there is 1 sharp in that scale, and that is F. And so that line is played in the key of G, and so that's why that F sharp is indicated there, so that if the exercise were to continue on, then an F sharp may be played, but the general response is that it is in the key of G. Whenever you're playing through the hymns, your hands are shifting more and more. So I want you to make sure that you feel very comfortable with playing the notes with the finger numbers that they have there. So your hands are going to be moving around. Please go over the hymns that are with this lesson, which can be found on pages 66, 67, 70, and 71. But then I also want you to go back and continue to practice the hymns that are found on pages 58 through 61, because those hand positions are also changing, just to get yourself more familiar and comfortable with the keys and what the notes on the page are telling you to do versus where the keys are on the piano. The last thing I want you to focus on this week is with the daily exercises, you'll find that the repetition does help and make things a little bit easier to play. It's also easier to recognize if you're hitting the correct notes because of the repetition that is found in these exercises. But what I don't want you to do is to get in the habit of looking at your fingers when you play. Please make sure that once your hands are in the right spot on the piano, that you're looking up at the notes and playing it in that manner. You may need to glance down at your hands every once in a while to make sure that you're in the right position, but don't get in the habit of recognizing what the patterns are in the song and then not looking up, especially whenever we're playing hymns. There are familiar melodies in there, and it may be easy to pick out those melodies and looking at your fingers. Please get in the habit of looking at the page instead of looking at your fingers when you play. Good luck with all the key signatures and the sharps, flats, and naturals that you'll be working with this week, and happy practicing.